All good to go? Everyone check? Everyone can hear me? Then welcome everyone back at day one of the European Sustainable Energy Week. We just had an amazing award ceremony and I hope you have enjoyed your coffees and snacks. And now we are going to continue with the debate with ambassadors. Now these are very prominent influencers, you might say. Can I call you influencers, actually? The debate of ambassadors who are influencing the global narrative on the acceleration of the clean energy transition. They're coming from various fields and disciplines. We're extremely honored to have them here and to watch them discuss the most urgent topics within the renewable energy sector and associated fields. Luckily, I don't have to do the difficult task of moderating. We have someone who knows much and much more about the renewable energy sector. So without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to the moderator of this session, which is Mechthild Wörsdörfer.
Thank you very much, Dylan, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning or this afternoon already, and then have the pleasure to moderate this important session with our three ambassadors. An ambassador is someone who probably you know already, but who should be the one who really explain, go out, talk to stakeholders, have a lot of experience in the field. So I'm very, very happy that we have this year very much three prominent ambassadors here with us. We will discuss for nearly an hour what you heard this morning from the commissioner, from the minister and others, the issue of skills can be really translated, connected to the clean energy transition and all that what it makes to be more efficient, have more renewables and accelerate this clean and green transition and just transition, because that is also one of the topics of this round. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dorthe Nielsen. She is the executive director at Eurocities. You probably know Eurocities. It's the network of large European cities. And then she's also coordinating the political positioning of the network and also work for greater recognition of the role of cities in this transition, in the just and green transition. So it's a pleasure to have Dorthe here. Next to me, probably I even need less to introduce Bertrand Piccard. Bertrand is both a psychiatrist and explorer. He was the first one to fly around the world non-stop in a balloon in 1999, and then again fly around the world in an only solar-powered airplane in 2016. And since then, he had a lot of ideas. He created Solar Impulse Foundation, who is really working on concrete solutions, more than 1,000 right now, on how really to make our clean transition, energy efficiency, renewables happening. And last but not least, I'm very happy to have Ivana Rogulj here with us. She is a senior energy expert at the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy Foundation with a focus on energy efficiency. And also you have worked on more than 30 projects in that area to show us the multiple benefits of clean energy transition. So it works that you can ask questions via Slido, and while you are thinking about what kind of question you can ask either to one or all three ambassadors here, I will break the ice and ask a first question to you. You all know that we have been working very, very heavily on the 2030 energy and climate framework. We have set and agreed on very ambitious target. Only last Friday, the Council Coreper decided on the renewables target for 2030, which is 42.5%. Looking from now, the existing red is about 32% renewables by 2030. So it really shows that Council and Parliament still has to vote of it, so it's a provisionally agreement, but we know the direction, 42.5% renewables by 2030. We all also agreed on high energy efficiency ambition with 11.7%, higher than the 2020 reference scenario by 2030. And we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55% at least, as it was foreseen in our Fit for 55 package. So my question to all of you is, how can we provide workers with adequate skills as we move towards a more sustainable energy system and prepare for the changes ahead? I will start with Bertrand to my left.
Good afternoon to everyone. We are in a very strange situation because since about 20 years, we hear two trends. One trend is the fact that there are more and more people unemployed, more inequalities, smaller salaries, and we're trying to do something against that. The other trend is energy transition, ecological transition, and we know since 20 years that we will reduce CO2 emissions, that we will make all these new technologies come on the market, and that we will need new skills. And today, we are ready with so many new technologies. We are ready to install solar panels, to renovate buildings, to install heat pumps, to create biomass power plants, geothermia, but not 3,000 meters, just 180 meters to put heat pumps. And what do we hear? There are no skills to do it. Nobody is trained to do it. And even if we were ready with all the money to invest massively everywhere, we could not do it. So let's be serious. When you hear the numbers that were pronounced today on how to reach these goals of reduction of emissions, maybe it will not happen because the skills will not be ready. The people will not be trained. So we have to understand that it's a fantastic opportunity today to train new people and to reduce unemployment. It's an incredible opportunity. It's not a problem, it's an opportunity. But for this, we need to go in the schools in order to tell the children 2 years or 1 year before the end of the mandatory schooling, to tell them these are the needs of jobs where you can go. You will never be unemployed. We need you. It's a stable job. And it's not only university jobs or administration jobs. It's also manual jobs. And we have to show them that they can be proud of doing that, because they will be the actors of this transition. Now, of course, we need to do exactly the same for the reconversion, because we hear all the time that people will lose their job in the oil business, in the conventional heating systems, and so on. No, they will not lose their job. They will just need to change their job. And we need to show it in a really attractive way. It's not a loss, it's a gain. And we need to do that at every level, but who's going to do it? You know, this sentence of Kissinger saying, if I want to call Europe, which number can I dial? I'm going to ask the same question today. If we want to speak to the people responsible of educating the new skills for Europe, which number should I call? There is nobody. There's nobody. And this we have to create urgently at the European level in order to help the national levels to do their job and be ready as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Bertrand, and also to speak about the opportunities. I think that is definitely something we want to discuss here. Ivana, your views on that?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this great opportunity. I had to check some numbers to see how many people are needed in the area to help repower implementation, and I've seen that European Heat Pump Association evaluates they need 500,000 more workers to install the 60 million expected heat pumps. That, for me, is a kind of unimaginable number. And then also the Commission estimates that 3 to 4 million people in construction need to be reskilled to be able to do the renovation wave. So these are really huge number of people. So, and there are so many interesting Commission's initiatives happening that we are going to hear about today. For example, there are a lot of projects in build-up skills, very interesting projects like MUSA, and there is also a lot of work working with the public administration, not only the private sector, because they need to capacitate to be able to follow on all that is happening in the installations, in the construction, and so on. So I wanted to emphasize something different, just to kind of not repeat what is said and what will be said in the afternoon. I think that we need to take care of the total capacities of the people. So for local administration, for example, with reskilling, they will get new duties, but whether they will be released of the duties that they have for now, it is a question, because the technical workers in the local administration are already under capacities. So we need to take care of the status of these workers who are reskilled on the market. So they need to have skills for operational and maintenance work, not only for the installations, because they need permanent, strong, long-term jobs. There are some things that I kind of can put under the same roof, and they are called cooperation. I think that we need to build strong cooperation among the sectors. Because what happened in some cases with the renovation of the buildings is that the construction works were competitive to other sectors, for example, tourism. So if we have a boom in buildings in other sectors and also renovation wave, then we have kind of a real wave of ups and downs of the work that's happening, and that could be a problem, so the pacing and the cooperation is very important. Also, as said before, the cooperation with the educational system, because to be able to reskill someone and to give them new skills in the installation, for example, of heat pumps, they already need to have some skills from the vocational training, from the high school and so on. So in shorter term, the projects that are happening on the high school level, on the university levels, with the workers will help. But on a longer term, what we need is a constant cooperation between the energy-related authorities in the countries and also the authorities that are working with educational systems. What I also think, and that is the last thing that I want to emphasize, is that we need to focus also on the managers. So the managers are the ones that need to recognize the importance in of energy efficiency. When we look at it from the perspective of, for example, I work a lot with small and medium enterprises. If they are not huge energy consumers, they are not the ones that are going to choose the energy efficiency as a priority. So to recognize all the benefits that are deriving from these projects implemented, from the audits implemented, from energy efficiency, to the managers, to teach them how to build it into their own business models, and to help their workers build the skills and change the businesses. I think this is something also to be added on all the skills that have been mentioned and will be mentioned today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana, and thank you also for mentioning the different dimensions, including the managers and the small and medium-sized enterprises and the role they have. What is your view, Dorthe, from a city's point of view, or the network of European cities?
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation to participate in this debate. Now, exactly from a city's perspective, just highlighting then the role of city authorities in relation to workers' skills. I mean, cities are, of course, first of all, large public employers, but they also play a key role in creating and supporting the right conditions that leads to more and better jobs. And they're well placed also to make the match between the demand for new skills, between people needing jobs and then the sectors requiring labor and specific skills. And then they are closely involved in access to reskilling, upskilling, adult training and online training for everybody. So we've seen now, as highlighted in the introduction, this level of increased ambition at European level, which is very welcome for climate neutrality, climate mitigation, overall targets for renewables, etc. And many cities, in fact, were also even going further than that, being more ambitious in terms of reaching climate neutrality by 2030 or even before. Some of the Finnish cities are aiming for 2025, 2029. And we see in the city administrations, the response that we have from our membership is this sort of necessity to adapt existing structures and create new ways of working together within the city administration and with the whole society. And that has then it has led to sort of then new needs, new skills gaps, which are becoming increasingly clear. And we've, our friends in Energy Cities have produced a good study estimating that 214,000 new positions need to be created in local administrations in Europe in the period from now and up until 2030 to help with this energy transition. There are also other studies confirming this trend. And the mission cities, so there's 112 cities that are working towards climate neutrality for 2025. They have also clearly indicated a lack of internal capacity. So for cities, there is both the aspect of the citizen skills to be able to partake in the energy transition, but also the internal capacity. And those new roles that we're looking at in the city administrations is those that can bring different departments together, implement climate plans, focus on coordination, procurement specialists that can navigate regulations, and people that are able to set up public and private partnerships. But there's lots of good examples of what goes on in cities as well already. I wanted to emphasize a few of those. For example, in the Marseille first solar school is not about tanning in Marseille. It's about training for people that can then be equipped to support the energy transition through solar rooftop, for example. And the great thing about it, the solar school, is that it approaches the very young people. So from 15 years onwards, that they can get an offer of training in this direction, help them on the path to then acquire later on formal diplomas for electricians, for solar panel installations. There is more information about this in a recent report that we've published with Solar Power Europe, with other examples as well from cities. But there is also, in the public administrations, we also have to be very clear that there is, in parts of Europe, it's not attractive to work in the local public administration, but it's an additional barrier to even sort of attracting the capacity. So in the salaries are not particularly attractive, and even people who graduate from public administration's master degrees go straight into the private sector. So changing that sort of attractiveness is really important, and we see some examples. For example, the city of Katowice has done a lot to design programs to train coal miners, to work on for vocational training, to participate in the energy transition, and this has been, and they do a lot to communicate around it as well, so that it's an attractive path. And then just one final example on one-stop shops. We see a lot of those coming up in cities around Europe, one-stop shops that also have a very important role in terms of skills development and also foresight. So enterprises can see what are the projects coming forward, what are the skills that I will need to be able to in my company, what are the skills that I will need to have to be able to buy into this transition. And for example, one example is the Energy Central in the city of Ghent, here in Belgium, where they've hired renovation coaches. They work with local NGO sector to tackle shortages in terms of people and skills in the field. And it's not a small entity. I mean, even in Ghent, which is not the biggest city in Europe by no means, it's 45 people that are employed there. So those are some of the examples on how cities work with skills development and also the needs in cities. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dorthe, for highlighting indeed the role of cities. A lot of people are living in cities, bigger, smaller, and also good to highlight a few good examples. You mentioned Ghent here or Katowice, so we are pleased to hear that and then exchange these good examples with others. Now I see that you're quite active, and I would like to take 3 questions from the audience. I have it here already on Slido. You can see it also on the screen. I will read them out and then ask our ambassadors to react. So I start with the first question from Neil. How can we reduce energy bills without increasing overconsumption, the so-called rebound effects? So when we have lower prices, we consume more electricity. How can we attract that? And that is a very good question. Secondly, do we have sufficient and well-communicated stories to encourage youth and professionals to direct or redirect their professional development and careers into clean energy? So somebody who's a plumber for oil and gas, how can we manage to incentivize and communicate those stories then to become, for example, an installer for heat pumps? And third, do we have sufficient and well-communicated stories to encourage, no, that has changed, sorry. To address the issue of just transition, don't we need to focus more on smart demand management to enable consumers to use energy when it's most plentiful or cheaper? So demand response, digitalization, smart meters, all that, a question from John Bryan. Can I start with you, Bertrand?
Well, all these questions are really interesting. I take the second one.
Good.
And the answer is no. We clearly don't have enough stories to tell, and we don't have the channel to tell them. Look, we're speaking here about skills, and who is in the room? Great people who are already convinced. We should also have in the room people who are not yet convinced, people who have no idea about this topic, people who are usually the one who resist. We need politicians from cities, from regions, for countries. We need education departments. We need head of universities. We need all these people. That means the target that we want to reach is not in the room when we are making this speech. So maybe this is a reflection that we need to have in order to touch all these guys. And either we go to them or we bring them here, but in another type of event where we can really tell the stories, because all of us, we know exactly what to tell, but we are not in front of the people that we want to reach.
Thank you, and there is also the role of ambassadors then to go out after that event, and also there are plenty of events. Hopefully we can attract a more diverse public, so we can
And
really
afterward, if I have time for the first question, I would love also to answer.
I thought
but
about
afterward.
Ivana,
I can try.
For the first question, by the way, how we can reduce energy bills without increasing overconsumption.
I can try the answer. So there are a lot of course, methodologies. What has been shown as successful is changing the educational system. And I know we are aware that children and the younger people are more aware of energy efficiency and saving energy and general environmental issues than us. That is one version of it. Also behavioral measures. But I think that what has been very successful is benchmarking with other consumers, showing that other consumers can, showing good examples, introducing the business models that will include measured savings, like energy performance contracts with measured savings and so on. However, I think we need to take into consideration that there are groups that will never succeed. There are energy poor households, there are micro-enterprises that are not on the level of energy consumption that they should be. So even if we don't achieve in some groups energy savings, we will achieve the comfort level, we will achieve the level of life that is the one that should be in the European Union at the moment. So there are of course tools that we are already using, but there are also situations when this is not the priority.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Can I ask you the question on just transition?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. I think so. Sure, to address the issue of just transition, it's probably part of the solution to focus also on smart demand management and enable consumers use energy when it's cheapest. But it's probably not the only solution. Now, the concept of just transition, I think is quite complex. It's something that we in Eurocities and with our membership is still sort of getting our heads around. So it means different things for different people. I think, of course, a very big element of it is tackling that energy poverty and supporting energy poor households. I think also and some of those will also be frankly, will be elderly people, and those to do their own smart demand management is not so straightforward either. So there is an element that links to digital inclusion, being able to use those sort of smart meters that are available, and that requires also, we're back at the skills again, that does require also some additional skills. So there are, I think it's a very broad notion, the just transition, and smart metering can be sort of one of the solutions, but it requires, I think, a wider range of policy solutions to fully tackle it. Yeah.
Thank you. You want to come back, Bertrand, or I jump to the
next?
Yes,
the rebound effect was described first in 1865 by an economist that is called Jensen. 1865 is not 2023. And it's true that in between, we have put all the concern about the environment, we have put CO2 tax, we have an increase of the price of fossil energies. So I think we can avoid this rebound effect, especially with the type of energy policy that is set by the European Commission. So we bring cheaper energy sources which are renewable, and instead of increasing the consumption, maybe we can increase the purchase power. And the one who are in need, the poorest people, what they need is not more money to consume more energy. They need more money to raise their children, to feed them well, to educate them well. And in that sense, the rebound effect could maybe be very positive. Not in the fact that they will consume more, but the fact that they will use this money to increase the purchase power. And for the people who really think that there is no solution, that everything I'm saying is wrong, just make the absurd thinking and say, well, if we're afraid that people consume more energy, we need to decrease the purchase power. We need to pay people less. We need to have more poverty so people will not consume. Of course, this is absurd. So, in a way, the answer to the first question is in the third question. The just transition is exactly what we need to offer to the people the possibility to consume better, because the needs will be lower. And then it will be all that as a gain for the quality of life. But we need CO2 tax and we need energy policy, of course, as a frame for that.
Thank you very much to all of you. That leads quite well, I think, for a second question I have prepared first to our ambassadors, which is really what we spoke about, the high energy prices. I think we all lived through last year under an unprecedented crisis. It was a combination of the outcome of COVID. Demand was increasing, but not enough supply. And then, of course, with the war and the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, we saw something we had never seen. Suddenly, we had to diversify away from Russian gas, reduce fossil fuels much faster than we thought. In that sense, end of August last year, we had very, very high gas prices and then the link to the electricity prices. So that leads me to my question to the three ambassadors. In your activities, what are the solutions to overcoming the challenges to producing and using affordable, reliable, and accessible clean energy? So it must be affordable, linked to the prices, reliable, because we have also seen through the crisis that there was no blackout in Europe. So we were able, all together, the energy sector, to provide the electricity and gas throughout the winter. So this is, I think, a first important message as well. but also accessible, clean energy. Maybe this time I start with Ivana.
Thank you. So we are a policy institute and a think tank, and by that I mean we do policy research, we do research in general, we do innovation actions, and with that we do recommendation for the Commission and for the national authorities. And we also work with the authorities on all the levels, helping them implement the policies that are brought by the Commission. And I want to emphasize some areas that we are working on. Thankfully, a lot of that is supported by European Commission also. First of all, for me, the most important thing I think now is energy efficiency first principle. So prioritizing demand side to production of the new energy has always been, since I started working a lot of years ago, the thing that is supposed to happen once in the future as something that will come to the legislative framework. And now it's part of the European directive. So this is something that we work on from the research side. We also work on it from the implementation side. We work a lot with the companies, with the national and local authorities on the multiple benefits effects. So we are trying to integrate the multiple benefits in cost-benefit analysis, trying to show that energy efficiency is not only bringing energy savings, but it's also bringing new jobs, it's bringing energy poverty reduction, it's bringing health benefits like reducing air pollution, it's bringing with that also environmental benefits. So trying to work on the research in that area to see that the multiple benefits are coming from the energy efficiency. We are also working on energy poverty and just transition a lot, and that includes with partners within whole Europe, trying to find different aspects of energy poverty. For example, there were specific poverty levels in the people who are working in rented apartments, how they are targeting the energy efficiency when they are not the ones that are investing in the apartment and so on. So very specific issues with energy poverty and just transition. With that, we have a lot of projects in just transition in the areas that are that have been mining areas in Europe, with the partners, of course, that are local energy agencies, local implementers. And last, I think what very, very important, we are working on the different governance levels. So we are trying to work with local authorities, also with our dear partners who are very experienced in that area, but also regional and national authorities, trying to implement the policies on all of these levels, because what's supposed to be, what is a problem is that even if the policies are implemented on the national level, there are no capacities on the local and regional level to kind of spread these policies around. And what happens also is that there is sometimes lack of communication of how the things are going to be done. I personally work mostly with SMEs, and I think this is the area of work that has not been targeted enough. Mainly, we have 28 million SMEs. We have a lot of people working in SMEs in the European Union, and we are mostly targeting high energy consumers. We are mostly targeting households, of course. So I think this is also something that we want to work with in the future.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Maybe there is a link between national, regional, cities, local. What are your views?
Yes, there's many links, yeah, and sometimes not enough still. So from the perspective of Eurocities, so I mean, yes, still again, sort of the energy focus on sort of reducing consumption and energy savings. And I think during the energy crisis, the Covenant of Mayors launched the Energy Savings Sprint, which was also exemplary, and few has the outreach capacity that the Covenant has to reach out to so many towns and cities in Europe. For the mayors, I think the city administrations, the outreach activities to citizens continues with a high priority. And we hear some cities saying that actually in times of crisis, that conversation and that engagement with citizens is a crisis situation is of course a driver as well. And some of those difficult conversations about behavioral change, when it's taken in that context and it's evident for everybody that change needs to happen, it can sort of accelerate change. And we've seen also in the awards this morning that there is also local communities that are taking forward sort of in a true bottom-up pressure then for acceleration of the change. Financial incentive can also help, and empowering then local energy communities, moving people from being consumers to prosumers of energy. But from Eurocities' perspective, I mean, so one of the things that we do is learning and sharing between cities, and some of the examples are fantastic in terms of local energy production. But cities have very different conditions, geographical conditions, weather conditions to work with. We have, for example, the city of Zaragoza, who has lots of space around the city, and with a mix of wind and solar power, the city then wants to produce more 400% of its own energy demand within the next couple of years, which is fantastic, but feasible for few cities than in Europe. And on the opposite spectrum, we also have Utrecht, who has very, very little space, as all the Dutch cities, but still is moving ahead with nature-positive solar panels on floating energy islands in a lake that is close by a new district that the city is building, so that district can be energy neutral. And at the same time, that sort of lake is also used for recreational purposes, and the procurement for this project had also built in the green aspect, so that there is no adverse implications for the nature existing in that and the biodiversity in the lake. And I think one of the aspects that we want to look at as well is phase out of gas in cities, and there are also some really good examples. With, for example, Vienna Heating and Cooling by 2040, which is a gas phase-out initiative, where there is an emphasis of the strategic aspect, how important it is to have a strategy in place, and then on the basis of that, set your priorities and engage your stakeholders, and then roll out the steps to phase out gas. So those are some of the activities where we support the cities learning and sharing and being inspired from each other. But some other of our activities is also continuing the dialogue with the European institutions and supporting cities in the conversations with their national member states. And I think some of the things that we would like to continue working on is access to finance as well for cities, investing in that energy transition in renewable energies at local level. So through the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the national recovery programs, our initial surveys on this indicate that too many cities, 70% of cities, feel that they're inadequately consulted in terms of shaping these plans. It was also in the French news this morning, actually, that Joe Biden is now doing better than Macron, for example, in terms of allocating financing for renewable transition to the major cities in the US. It's really interesting to see that this is raising up the level of attention also in the national media. But I think one of our overall points is that agile, competent, and resourceful local administration is essential to the green transition, and is essential to skills capacity at local level to deliver that energy transition. So there's lots of good initiatives going forward in different parts of the European Commission. We would be really keen to see sort of a much more a joined-up approach where the efforts lead to something that is more powerful than what we have now, is maybe sort of slightly fragmented approach. So those are some of the things that we'd be keen to work on. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and we definitely continue that dialogue. Bertrand, your views.
At the Solar Impulse Foundation, we have identified up to now 1,515 solutions worldwide that allow either to produce renewable sources of energy or to save energy, be more efficient, find new ways in circular economy, for example, also to reduce the energy over the life cycle. What strikes me is the huge diversity of what exists and the little knowledge of what we can really use. You know, it's not only solar and wind on the roofs and on wind turbines. You can put solar panels over artificial lakes. You can put solar panels above agricultural fields for agrivoltaism. It increases the yield for the farmers and gives an additional income to the farmers. When we speak of geothermia, it's not only deep geothermia, it's also shallow geothermia. It's also a way to store heat into the ground during the summer, to recover it during the winter. When we're speaking of hydroelectricity, It's not only big dams, with all the ecologists demonstrating because they don't want big dams. It's also very small water turbines that you can put in small rivers and feed villages or houses with electricity. So basically, what we have to understand is that we are going from a centralized world of production of energy to a decentralized world of production of energy. And then all the energy efficiency, it's a fantastic field because just the number you have to remember is the fact that 3/4 of the energy that is produced in the world is lost not only by bad behaviors, but by really outdated and inefficient systems that are wasting the energy everywhere. And the best way to be efficient now is to electrify the society. But if you tell that, electrify because of decarbonization and so on, you have a lot of incumbent companies who will be against you. So I think we have to change the wording. In order to really penetrate the market, we need to speak of modernization much more than decarbonization. Decarbonization is something that creates resistance, doubts, people don't understand, they think they're going to lose something. If you speak of modernization, it means that we go from the inefficient and polluting world in which we live today into a world that is modern, efficient, using the highest standards, the highest technologies that are already available today. And I think by proving that all these solutions to modernize the world exist, are profitable and ecological, you find the investments in a much more simple way. Because it's not a question of cost and subsidies. It becomes a question of investment and profitability. And the money exists. You have far enough money to invest in something that is profitable. And what will be the consequence of all that? It will be a decarbonization. Decarbonization will be the consequence of using all this modernization, and it will not be a goal in itself. And I think that's a way to take with us much more enthusiasm, much more people, and this is where we can put the skills that we were talking before, because it's quite nice to be a young student or a young child and say, wow, I'm contributing to modernize the world, instead of continuing to prolong a very inefficient system that clearly doesn't work. So I think here is where we can create the enthusiasm and the result.
Thank you very much, Bertrand, and I would only recommend to look at these 1,500 plus solutions. They are very, very concrete actions to help us in that way of modernization. We have another 3 questions from the public here, from you. So I will read them out and then ask the 3 ambassadors to react quickly. We have time to go and reply to them. First, Jean-Sébastien, it's very welcome that the Commission put high on the agenda the need to develop education and vocational training to fill the skills gap. What about a just transition in incomes and working conditions? E.g., workers' shortage in construction is due to low income and bad working conditions. Secondly, Konstantinos, how could you convince the authorities to make it easier for the citizens to take energy efficiency seriously and take measures towards that without bureaucracy? I think that we already a little bit touched upon. And third, and that's also coming back to the local level, looking at energy decentralization, what potential do you foresee for job creation, re-industrialization, or any other major society change in general? Who wants to start? Dorthe, you? You can pick the question. Whoever can start.
Thanks. It's all big questions. Now, energy decentralization, I think it's a huge potential, and I think it's also what Bertrand has raised. There is a need for that job creation in cities in most parts of Europe, and so that potential is definitely there, and also for the reindustrialization, it's something that getting production back in European cities is very important. But I don't have the figures in mind in terms of what it would actually mean. We have some figures for what it means for the local administrations, but in terms of then the effect of the territories and what it means, I'm sure others have done the calculations on that, maybe at European level. So yes, a huge potential, obviously, for job creation and one that is much needed. But that's a very sort of straightforward answer, I think.
Thank you. Maybe Ivana, yes, you want to continue?
I can try with the first one, although it's a very, very hard question, and I think it's covering many topics other than only energy and energy transition. So I think I kind of touched it in the introduction, in the first answer to the first question, is that we need to take into consideration when building skills who those people are. So who are the workers? Do they have already skills that are needed to start the reskilling process? Then I think the cooperation is very important and the pacing of work. So although the renovation wave, for example, is rather urgent, on the other side, if we do a very well and strategic plan for the next period, then we can make these jobs permanent. That these jobs could be more of a higher quality. So if we are doing like, I've been working in UNESCO, so I've seen that there was a boom in renovation in some parts in past. And what happened was that the people were working on multiple renovation projects at some period, and then after that they were switching to other jobs because this was done. So this pacing and this quality of planning is, I think, very important to keep the jobs permanent. I think how the social rights of the workers do is something beyond my skill and knowledge level, but a very important for the just transition, because what I kind of encountered when working with people is that they were very secure in their energy jobs. So the jobs in a large thermal power plant were very permanent and secure, and this is something that we need to keep on going with the new jobs and after reskilling.
Thank you very much. And maybe the second question, or wherever you want to react.
I'll say something on the first one also.
Oh, okay, very good.
I think there are three types of jobs. The jobs who have no future and who are heavily subsidized, like miners, like a lot of things in fossil energies, where there are subsidies. Now you have low-skilled jobs that are badly paid, and you have high-skilled jobs that have a much higher salary. In a lot of companies, the higher salaries are in the digital development. It's not where we expect the higher salaries, but it's where it's difficult to find people who do a good job. So the salary follows. And today, we have a very high demand for all these renewable energy installation, energy efficiency, and so on. And I'm absolutely not afraid about the salaries that are going to be paid. They're going to be good salaries, just because there's not enough people, not enough skills, and a high demand. So the just transition, I think, will start with this. Maybe in 40 years, when everybody will do that, and I don't know what will happen with the wages, but today, don't be afraid about that. Now, I'm going to say something quickly on the second question. The administrative burden is absolutely unbelievable. And when you talk to ministers of energy and you ask them, what are the biggest obstacles for a fast and profitable energy transition, they tell you two things. One is the administration that is not ready to give the permissions, to give the concessions, to go fast, to be flexible, to adapt to the needs. This is one thing. The second one, I'm sorry to say, but it's the opposition from some green activists. You start to understand nothing about what's happening. We're speaking now of making more trains because it's a low-carbon transport. And when you have a new train line in construction, you have green activists who are fighting against it. When you want solar panels in the Alps, above the clouds, to be really producing all time of the year, you have green activists who say it's not nice. We don't like to see solar panels in the mountains. Well, if you put the landscape, the beauty of the landscape, which is completely subjective, before the decarbonization, before the protection of the environment, before fighting climate change, before the future of humankind, I think we're completely going in the wrong direction. And of course, we need to respect the right of opposition, but it should not be 20 years to decide if we put a dam higher, put a new train line, or things like that. We need to treat all the oppositions together and not subcontently. We need to treat them quickly, and we need to allow the people who are making a project to adapt their project to the oppositions in order to do it better, and not to wait until the end of the opposition to make a new project, because this is what happens today. So clearly we need to change all that thing here to go faster.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. Thank you all. Looking at the time, I think we are at the closure of that dialogue with the ambassadors. So what I can see that there is a lot what we can learn from each other, and that is a bit also the game or the purpose of the EU Sustainable Energy Week in general, and we will have more events in the coming 3 days to go deeper in one or the other. But I think we all agree that as ambassadors, and here we have 3 prominent ambassadors, we need to talk to everyone. We need to keep that dialogue also to those who are not energy experts and go out and discuss it. I think last year's crisis, I mean, there's always an opportunity or a good thing out of a very unprecedented crisis, don't get me wrong. But it's also the consciousness of energy policy, energy prices, and things we need to speed up. I think everyone had also in the friends or families more debate on energy than probably the years before. And we need to use that. We need to use that also structurally. We try to do that with our legal framework, but I also strongly believe in the dialogue within your roles, but also all of you. I mean, in a way, all of you are ambassadors today, so we can all bring that knowledge and that discussion to your home or friends or professional life so that we can speed up this energy transition, make it happen, while we talk about energy efficiency, renewables, and other solutions. So with that, I would warmly thank Bertrand, Ivana, and Dorthe, and also probably go back to Dylan for the next steps. Thank you very much, all of you.
And also a big thank you, of course, to Mechthild, excuse me for a second. Wörsdörfer, apologies there. Mechthild Wörsdörfer for moderating this session. We're going to continue here at 2 o'clock, so we're first going to have a lunch break. I'd like to remind you also, not just for the energy fair, but also for the Martens Hotel, where you can also have a lunch, see the energy fair. And if you're interested in following some of the policy sessions there, starting at 2:30, then I'd like to remind you that you can also watch the keynote session that is going to start here at 2, which lasts until 2:30. You can also watch it from the Martens Hotel. So you're absolutely sure that you're there on time when also the next policy session starts at the Martens Hotel. Then I'd also like to remind you that you can continue the debate online to meet one another during the online platform. And I hope that you will, for now, have a great lunch and see you back at 2 o'clock.